How's it going, internets? I hope you're having a lovely day. It's that time again. It's time to get into some animation. It's time to get into some creation and some imagination. Get creative. Get everything that accesses that other side of the brain all psyched up. And it's time to get inspired. And today's inspiration comes from Rane. And if you're not familiar with his work, check right over here. He is one of the main art directors for Blizzard Entertainment and a beautiful illustrator and concept artist for sure. I really like this piece. It reminds me a lot of some Lion Decker or even some Norman Rockwell illustration work in that one. Some more stuff he did for Lords of the Realm. This one I really liked. I thought there's some great detail in here, and one of those really epic pieces that you have tons of different characters and layout and composition throughout. Really great posing and color work as well throughout here too. And then, this was an older one that I remember, I think probably 2008, 2009, piece that I just loved, and I remember leafing through this and really remembering this one in particular. It had some great posing. That he does that thing where that I always think is great for any sort of visual medium, is that if you can create storytelling poses that make you think that something just happened right before this image and something's going to happen right after that, and you get that sense of movement and storytelling through a single image. Like right here, you would have seen, this guy probably started to throw some fireballs. This guy maybe unsheathed his sword. This guy maybe did anticipation for a jump attack. And this guy would have just swiped through towards him and maybe getting ready to do it again. But anything where you can get that sense of more story than is even there to be seen, but to imagine that and get that whole sense of just depth to your imagery, I think is great. So he's, like I said, a phenomenal artist, one of my big inspirations, and I love his Diablo stuff as well. So definitely check him out. I will throw a link down in the description below for more of his stuff. But I wanted to share a quote with you guys from him as well. And that was, if you're working on a concept, someone is asking you to solve a problem, you have to make sure you are solving that problem in the coolest way possible within the design boundaries. And I thought that was a great way to look at the creative medium, is that as almost a mathematical equation for what's the best way to present this with the skills given and the time allotted, and your unique voice or style or whatever, and trying to do it in the allotted boundaries, as he says as well. And that was a great way to think of things. I know sometimes it can be daunting to look in front of a blank page or a blank animation when you just open up a file, or to, you're sitting there and you're going to write a song, or you're sitting there with a blank lump of clay or a piece of wood or whatever it is in the medium that you're using. And, it can be daunting, but if you think of it as an equation, then you're like, well, I have to solve this part, and then I can solve that part, and then, just continue to solve smaller portions of the problem, and then eventually you can get around to fully rendering out the solution or the answer, even in a creative way. And I also like the part where he talks about in the coolest way possible. That's one of my particular, I have like a set of rules that I give myself whenever I'm doing some illustration work or anything. And one of them is does it look cool, and is it worth looking at? Like, does it cause you to think and ponder about it? So that being said, let's go ahead and get into some animation here. And today we are going to be using the Reptile Eye rig. It's a free rig you can grab over at Creative Crash. And if you're not familiar with what we'll be doing, I give ourselves about 48 frames, which is 2 seconds of animation. I go off and I find a rig that I've never used before that's a free resource for you guys to play around with, and kind of see where we go from there. A little bit of over the shoulder, hang out with me while I animate, a little bit of instruction or guidance or talking through the thought processes. But the main goal of this stuff is to hopefully encourage you guys to continue along in your journey every day, and continue to help motivate you guys to create new stuff every day and share it with the world, and not to worry about if it's perfect or not, but just to keep continuing to make steps in that creative journey every day, and to not give up, and to stay motivated, and also hopefully to inspire you to do the same. Whether it's because you saw something and you learned something here, or we talked about something, or I brought up a different point, or because you disagree with me, or for whatever reason, or you could do better and you have an idea, you want to do that. And whatever it is, feel free to share down below any of the stuff you guys are creating as well, so I can give you some encouragement or some thumbs up, or you can have a place to show off your work as well. So that being said, let's go ahead and get in here. And if you've been following along for the last few days, almost a week now, we're doing this Jump-vember, which is hold on 1 second here. Jump-vember, where we just instead of just focusing kind of on walks, we're focusing on jump animation. So every day we're doing a different style of jump, or a different way to jump, or doing that. It just helps us focus a little more on weight and timing, and locking that down a little bit tighter. Then we'll probably go back to walks. Maybe do some acting shots or something for December. I'm kind of thinking just to mix it up, that we give ourselves kind of different goals every month for things to focus on. So for this one, I wanted to do side to side kind of a thing. So we got this one, let's copy this and paste that. And we are using Autodesk Maya 2014 for today. And there will be a link to the program in the description below if you guys aren't familiar with it as well. But for me, it's one of my favorite. I also like Flipbook, and I tend to use Photoshop as well. Depends on the kind of style I'm going for. And so with today's, I wanted to do something where we're going a little more in 3D space rather than kind of just straight forward with our jumps. So we'd be jumping forward into the side, and then forward into the other side. So that'll force us to use some more translate X with our movement as well. Now, this rig unfortunately doesn't have a ton of controls with it, so it's going to be pretty straightforward with what we do here, or at least hopefully. And we'll see, I'm sure we'll come into problems and solutions throughout the way as well. So let's go ahead and save our file one more time. Let's go ahead and just grab everything here and set our first key there. Go ahead and go to 12 here. Set that, and then go to 28 here. Just kind of starting to do this. Now, one thing I think I want to do as well is I want to vary the heights a little bit, so I just get some more variety with how we're jumping for today. So again, I'm going to kind of lock in that stuff, but I'm just going to adjust the height as well. Just to vary it up so that we get some different ideas and different approaches to different styles of jumping. It's really not that great right now, but that's okay. So we'll hold that for about 6 frames, then we'll go to 12, and hold that for 7 frames, and then go 28, and we'll hold that for about... Okay, this is probably a little too fast, so give ourselves, let's go ahead and window animation editors, let's go to graph editor here, give ourselves about 2 more frames. Just seemed a little fast, and we'll go about 1 frame less than the other side. Again, this one feels a little too fast. Okay, let's go into 10 here. Let's let's make sure we lock down this stuff here. Let's raise that up. And raise that up. So we got some arc in there, so let's see. We can probably do one more. Do one more? Sure. Because like I said, there's not a lot of controls with this Reptile Eye controller, so I'll do this one. Vary the height a little bit more. And let's push it over a little bit. Okay. And we got that. And let's go 48. Go over. Play with our timing a little bit more. Get our arcs locked in a little bit better. Need to go higher there so we can get some arc in there. Let's see. This might be a little too high, so let's take the translate Y on both of those and bring it down about there. Now, this move feels a little too long, so let's shorten it by a frame here. And this is probably a little too high now, so I'll bring that back a little bit. In fact, this one could be higher. And this first one could be higher as well. let's try and make these a little bit heavier. So let's take the translate Y here, lift it up a little bit more. Just to make it hit a little bit harder. I think we need to push this over one frame. And maybe a little bit higher on that first one. So it's not just going at the same rate, we have a little bit of weight on there. That like smacks in position a little bit better. Okay, let's go save file here. Let's do a little bit of squash and stretch here. Again, this isn't perfect because it's not really a squash and stretch controller, it's more of a scale, but we should be able to still get something out of it. Okay, let's look at that now. Maybe we need about 2 more frames. Original here. Let's go, what's that, 0.721. Push that over a frame. See with a little bit of overshoot. Let's do a little bit of scale down here. Let's go down further here. We can't go down too far or else we, let's see. Here we can go with the translate Y a little bit lower here. Let's go do it a little less here. It's still touching. go ahead and save what we have here. Let's see if we can't go. Hoping translate wise down just a little bit. And then this will go up a little bit after. Down. So let's see. Go back up a little bit. And go down. Yeah. That feels pretty good. See if we can't get it on the other ones. Just adding a little bit more here. Like I said, there's not a lot of controllers with this eyeball rig, so. Go down a little bit more here. Let's make sure we keep that start off with. Go down a little bit. Go up a little bit. Goes down. Let's see. Grab both of those and go down a little bit. Go up a little bit more. Let's see. There's a little too much action going on there. And go up a little bit. Then go down. Let's see. This wants to be a little bit less. Maybe we just need to minimize it a little bit more. Maybe it's just the ending that's too much. One more frame. Go down here. Let's look at it now. again, this is all kind of just extra stuff to put in here to make the world that this is bouncing in more believable. Let's look at that now. Let's really kind of try and neuter that a lot more towards the end here. Just a little bit there. Okay, let's save that and let's get into this guy. Set that one here. Bring both of them down a little bit. Go up a little bit. And go down again. Okay, that one went a lot smoother than this one did. So let's go back in here. Again, I'm gonna key it there. Grab it, go down. More. This will go up. Let's see. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Let's go ahead and save our file here. And I'll turn your curves off. Again, we could definitely spend a lot more time polishing out our arcs really hard, but they're pretty workable for right now. So let's take a look back at where we started. We were looking at the beautiful art of Rane, and he said, if you're working on a concept, someone is asking you to solve a problem. You have to make sure you are solving that problem in the coolest way possible within the design boundaries. I think that's a great quote. A different way to think about the creative process of using your unique voice and experiences and talents in your own mind to set up a problem for yourself. Or if you have an art director or someone telling you, they'll give you the boundaries and everything to it. But then approaching it as, I want to solve this problem in the coolest way within the boundaries that I've given myself or have been given to me. I think that's a great way to look at things. So that being said, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. You guys are amazing. I love you lots. If you're watching this, you guys are the creative future. I totally believe in you. Keep pursuing your dreams every day. If you ever have any comments, questions, criticisms, concerns, thoughts, ideas, any of that kind of stuff, feel free to send me a message. You can send it on Twitter or Facebook or any of that stuff. Links below as well too. You guys are amazing. I love you lots. And by this time I'm rambling, so I guess that means that we'll see you for some more animation tomorrow.